Welcome everybody to Put It on the Table, our semi-weekly podcast show where we like to bring you all of our favorite things related to RPG tabletops. Sometimes talking systems, sometimes talking full settings. It varies here and there. I'm one of your hosts, resident mind flayer here at NIHF, as well as one of the head producers, Bruno Menezes. And with me, as always, one of my co-producers and always bringing us one of the best and brightest games here and there. It's Sterling Haynes.
Hello, it is your alternative Mind Flayer here today. I'm sure headphone listeners will love that.
I can feel my brain getting sucked. Anyways, last week or semi week, we'll figure it out eventually. But last time we on Put It on the Table, I introduced Sterling to Worldwide Wrestling RPG, and then we had our own little play session in our side show, Play It on the Table, which you can catch on NIHF as well as, I believe, on YouTube coming soon. Which, by the way, this is our first episode on video. Say hi to the actual viewers for once, Sterling.
Woo! You get to see my face in the background of my room.
And you get to also see every now and then when we react to each other's funny faces, which has happened a few times in the past. I digress. Also coming up in the next couple weeks, I hope it will be Sterling's first big play it on the table episode, where we are just going through a full out RPG campaign. And one of the most intriguing things about this whole thing is that Sterling, our keeper, as we are currently calling him, has split this into a wonderful collection of arcs that will each be covered in a different gaming system. And he will also be having his own little fireside DM fireside chat shows to talk about those separate systems and how you can get into it. Am I leaving anything out, sir?
Just that this is going to be a really good, a really fun learning opportunity for anyone listening to figure out how different systems work. So for now, we're going to be working with the Monster of the Week system, but eventually we will move on, and you'll get to see each system play tested out, and they're all going to be non-Dungeons and Dragons systems. So hopefully you'll get to see something you've never seen before, and maybe get introduced to a system that works better for the vibe of your current campaign.
Absolutely. We will have a more concrete date on when those are dropping later on for you, but we do expect that they will be dropping on every Wednesdays or Thursdays, coinciding with certain other shows. Um, and not to mention, we are not the only two in there for once. We will also be having we have other players as well in fellow Nerd Here's and Nerd Here First, Jack and Riley Trahan, and hopefully we may be having a couple more guest players soon. I'm working hard to convince Deepak, but it is a long hill. Enough dilly dallying. I have talked enough for now. I'm going to pass it off to my co-host, who is bringing us today with a brand new system, and I do mean brand new in that I'm pretty sure it's still in playtesting. Sterling, what are we rolling today?
Today, I'm bringing you Critical Role's new Daggerheart system, which is brand new. It is currently in open beta. You can get it. They're distributing it for free completely. And there are several surveys you can take, so you can check this system out right now on every major RPG distributor and Critical Role's own website. And yeah, it's out right now for free just to play test and figure it out. So the rules are kind of shifting, but I'm bringing the latest version here today, and it's already looking like it's going to be a ton of fun. So yeah, this system it's very much meant to be kind of a Dungeons and Dragons adjacent or replacement, because it is very much the high fantasy vibe, the high fantasy Tolkien vibes that you get from Dungeons and Dragons, but they have edited the rules in several ways that I think have changed for the better or / more interesting. But we can get into all of that later. Let me tell you the basics about the system, and then we can get into classes, and Bruno over here is going to build a character in the system as well.
Looking forward to it. I got some ideas in mind.
So the basis of Daggerheart is that the every like check that you make, every action that you do, every roll that you make, the players are going to be rolling 2d12 for every check, which I think is really interesting. It changes the player's average rolls from 1 to 20 to 2 to 24, which kind of like it makes the numbers that you roll a lot more epic, I think.
Yes,
And it
indeed.
only like and it only slightly changes like the DC levels of like where things should be. So now like instead of 10 being kind of the medium, 15 is kind of the medium now. And like 30 is still like really high tier and almost impossible, but like still possible with like improved modifiers through leveling.
Interesting. If
So
viewers
like
are
it
catching
does
my faces right now, it's because I read ahead into the equivalent of armor class in this game, and now I'm worried. But I'll let Sterling continue.
we will get into that and yeah, it's changed is very interesting. But yeah, so for everything you roll 2d12, and these two 2d12 need to be two different dice. It specifies in the rules that you need one to represent your hope dice, and the other one is going to be your fear dice, because they've introduced a separate like second dimension to rolling, which is basically whenever you roll your 2d12s, you're just going to note whether your hope or your fear die is higher. And this is a way of bringing in mixed successes to the Daggerheart system. So if you succeed on something with hope, you gain hope, which is a resource that you can spend for some of your like class abilities, and also for like several like uh, static effects that like anybody can spend hope on. Um, but you can also still like succeed with fear. If your fear die is higher, rolls higher than your hope die, so then you can that is a more like mixed success. Like you succeed, but you encounter like an obstacle, another obstacle, or you put another obstacle in your way. It adds a new like dimensionality, because like you can succeed with hope and gain like all the benefits and get all the rewards, and you can also succeed with fear, which either the DM will like make it a partial success, or they can also just take a fear for the DM, which the DM, so the players have hope that they can spend, but the DM has fear that they can spend to increase some of the challenges they're facing. And we'll get more into that, like if we have time to talk about combat later on,
Absolutely.
or perhaps in our follow-up episode, which we will be doing, playing a one-shot in the Daggerheart system if we don't get to it today.
Yes. That would be perfect for combat, actually.
So yeah, the duality dice system adds some very interesting new dimensions to rolling. And then, like with every roll, you're going to add one of your attributes, which in Daggerheart, the attributes have changed slightly. They haven't broken like any incredible ground. We're still like at 6 attributes, 3 of which are physical, 3 of which are mental. But they have changed it, I think, in a uh, in a beneficial way. So our stats now are agility, strength, finesse, instinct, presence, and knowledge. So what they've done is they've done away with Constitution, because I mean honestly with D&D, Constitution is so underutilized for anything. Like there are no skills for it. There's no like you can only really be proficient in Constitution saving throws. It was
Yeah.
but like it determined some of your hit points, which made it kind of important, but it wasn't really important for like anything else.
I would argue it's important for spellcasters, but only really spellcasters concentrating on spells as well.
True. And I believe there is no such thing as concentrating anymore, that I can tell.
Fuck Constitution. Move on.
But yeah. So we have now kind of agility being like your general athletics, where agility is like kind of your ability to your endurance, your ability to keep going, which is kind of like constitution.
Okay.
And then we still have strength for like those like physical acts of just pure lifting stuff. And then finesse is your like dexterity. That's all your hiding and your tinkering capabilities.
So I guess agility work like because I was originally just thinking agility as like dexterity, but then that's obviously what finesse is. So I guess agility falls a little bit more like along the lines with like stamina.
Yeah, because we no longer have skills. Like we've taken away D&D skills like
Mm-hmm.
underneath all of these ability scores.
Right. Okay.
So we've kind of made athletics its own ability in agility, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like yeah, so yeah, it would be like to put it into like more Fallout video gamey terms, it would be like kind of your stamina.
Excellent. All right.
And another improvement is that all of these attributes, there it's not like a number that you have to do an equation to figure out your modifier for. Your number in each attribute is just your modifier. So every character starts with a 1 plus 2, 2 plus 1s, 2 zeros, and a minus 1, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that that is like what you get to distribute across each of your attributes for every starting character.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, so we've really simplified out the attributes while also kind of getting rid of like the most one of the more like obscure and underutilized ones from like the original 5e equation, and replaced it with like things that are more like immediately useful for the players.
Absolutely. Nice.
Yeah, and now like things like HP are determined more by your class, and
Oh, so
especially your armor class and like the damage thresholds that you take are there. Those are
mhm.
mostly determined by your class and kind of like what armor you're wearing.
Okay. And so the idea of lineages and races, they do, or like lineages, which is what they use instead of races, that doesn't have as much of an effect like the used to do in 5e.
Those are more of have give you like special abilities based on them. So you get like additions. They don't ever like subtract away from your stats,
Okay.
but they give you like slight buffs and like maybe some magic effects as well.
Interesting. Nice.
On average, it looks like from like a lineage, you'll get like two distinct bonuses for each individual lineage. Yeah, and that leads into the me talking about the fact that under each of these attributes, we no longer have skills. They got rid of like all the different skills and the entire proficiency system,
Mm-hmm.
and instead they've replaced it with writing in experiences. So upon character creation, you also get experiences that you can argue you can basically argue any experience that you have to add a modifier to a role that you're currently undergoing, and an experience, it is an abstract label that gives you a bonus to kind of just an abstract idea of roles. Like if you say that your character used to be a hunter, then you can put down that you have experience uh, in tracking game, which you can then
Hmm.
like argue for a bonus to like track an escaped criminal down the line, which because it's a similar skill set.
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
So,
so you have the skills are more customizable now, and they can be applied to a broader range of things, and you will and every level up you can just keep acquiring experiences.
and these experiences, like, well, you mentioned they're like part of like the character's like backstory.
Yeah, so you get two experiences just for making your character, and you will continue to get experience like different experiences as you keep leveling up. And as an option, you can optionally just increase the bonus that your the experiences you already have give you.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I think that's enough to kind of get a gist of the system. Why don't we start creating a character that you want to create, and
Yes,
we'll get into a little bit more that way.
absolutely. What do you need from me?
All right, so first off, we are going to choose for you a class. Now, every class in the Daggerheart system, every class is uh, it's seen as a mixture of two different domains. So in Daggerheart, there are 9 like domains of kind of magic. If you've ever played Magic the Gathering,
Hmm.
it's like each individual color in that insofar as each domain in Daggerheart represents a different like tactic that a class can take. So there
Interesting.
are there is like Arcana, which is the domain of like pure intelligence spell casting. Um, or no, Arcana. Sorry, Arcana. It's slightly different in Daggerheart. Arcana is Codex is the domain of like pure intelligence
Mm.
spell casting, whereas Arcana is more wild magic.
Oh, so like more with like innate magic sorcerers.
Yeah, it would be it. Arcana is the domain of sorcerers and druids now,
Okay,
and
gotcha.
and Codex is for wizards. But yeah, so every class is uh, is a mixture of two different domains,
Hmm.
which basically will affect like the abilities that your class receives at each level. Which, by the way, sorry, I should have gone over this earlier. Daggerheart, 10 level system. Levels right now go from 1 to 10. 10 being like the most powerful that you will get.
Multiclassing?
Multiclassing is also a thing. You can, however, you do have to get 5 levels in one class before you can multiclass.
Interesting. But okay, I'll ask the stupid question that I'm sure our friend of the channel Mitch would ask. Can I multi-class into multiple classes?
So I think that's probably what they tried to prevent by stating that
Right.
you have to get 5 levels in. It's to say that you can only multiclass into a second class.
That's I think that's a good sense of control there.
Yeah, because you're yeah, it would get wild. Having like access to 6 different domains would give you so much power. It'd be
Hmm.
wild. It would kind yeah, it would kind of it would at that point you would risk rendering other players' abilities less unique, which
Yes,
you never want to do that because that makes other people at the table feel less special.
absolutely.
But yes, so everything is of 2 domains, and Bruno, we kind of went over it. It would be laborious to go over each in detail right now, but Bruno,
Hmm.
we kind of talked about it off camera, and you decided what class you wanted to do. What class was that?
I was I debated long and hard on what I wanted to do, and being a big fan of 5e and D&D, there's a class there that I believe deserves a lot of justice, deserves a lot of vindication, and I'm hoping that Direheart has succeeded at that. And so I'm going to be playing a ranger.
Yeah, so the I really like how Daggerheart treats its spellcasting classes because we have kind of equalized the classes in Dungeons and Dragons. We've taken 5e and we've with the proletariat has rebelled and the spellcasting classes are now equal. It's like half casters no longer exist. Everybody has like the same uh kind of what we've done instead is some Some casting classes have like two different magic domain, like more magic domains,
Okay.
whereas some other magic classes have like one magic domain and one more like martial class domain.
So for the ranger, the domains are bone and sage, and I think it's very safe to assume that the bone one is the more physical domain, whereas sage is for spellcasting.
Yeah, so your sage is going to be your like your nature based magics.
Okay.
So that which is going to be like there are some healing abilities there and some like devastating uh, damaging moves in there as well.
Interesting.
In Sage, and Bone is like your it's your kind of like some of your classic fighter techniques. You
Hmm.
share this domain, I believe. Let's see, with one of the martial classes. You share this with the warrior.
Oh, the bone. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes
Bone.
sense. That makes sense. And I believe that sage definitely sounds like something that the druids would be using as well. I think.
Yes, the druid. Yeah, the
Okay.
druids are sage and arcana.
Cool. Cool. Hell yeah.
So yeah, you're gonna have access to like a few really cool like druidy kind of things and a few more fightery kind of things, which will lend more into your. And I'm sure Bone probably I haven't checked it out yet, but Bone definitely includes like some ranged attack abilities, which is like half of like what rangers do. I feel is they're either ranged or they got the two swords.
Excellent.
Because you always want to be Aragorn. It's always Aragorn with ranger players.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, so you have chosen to be a ranger. Do you kind of like have the sheet to fill out?
I have yes, I do have a sheet to fill out.
All right, cool. So we're gonna start. Your class will give you your kind of starting abilities or your
Hmm.
starting stats. So
Yes,
you're write in for your vision score that you're starting at a 10.
and you hear how he mentioned that it could go up to a total of 24. This is why I was worried, people, because I started at a 10.
So here's actually a very interesting thing that I want to bring up is that the DM does not roll 2d12. The DM does not participate in the duality dice system. The DM rolls a d20. So the DM is working with very classic like Dungeons and Dragons statistics, whereas the players have
Interesting.
kind of like elevated to like something a little bit more beneficial, I think.
I actually enjoyed that a lot. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, so just without any armor period, I have to roll above a 10 to hit you.
Yes. Okay.
But that, like again, that's before you even wear any armor. And
Hmm.
that is probably like right in the middle of the classes. I checked out Seraph because I love playing clerics, so I wanted to see what that was about. They have the second lowest starting evasion at a 7. The
Oh,
lowest
okay.
starting evasion, I believe, it goes to the wizard, which is a 6.
Of course it is.
Yep.
Squish boy.
So yeah. Also for your, do you see these sections that is your minor, major, and severe damage thresholds?
Yes.
So your minor threshold is 1.
Hmm.
Your major threshold is 7,
Okay.
and your severe threshold is 14. So
Hmm.
what this is in Daggerheart, your health is represented by like a 6 point system, and like you can get more health as upgrades for leveling up
Right.
later on. But like 6 health is kind of where you start at with Daggerheart. And the damage is all like very classic Dungeons and Dragons, like rolling like a few D12 or D6s or D8s. It's very all the weapons do like those same kind of damages, but
Hmm.
instead of making you do math and directly applying that to your health, what we do in Daggerheart is we have the minor, major, and severe damage thresholds. So if damage passes your minor threshold, uh, but doesn't pass your major threshold, you take 1 HP of damage. if the damage that you take falls between your major and your severe threshold, so between 7 and 14, you
Right.
take 2 points of damage. And anything above a 14, you take 3 points of damage.
Interesting. Okay. That I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so you don't have to do math when taking damage now. You just have to see like is this number between these two numbers. That's
Hmm.
the most amount of math that you have to do when you're taking damage in Daggerheart.
Excellent.
So let's see. There are a few. The class items that you get for being a ranger is either a trophy from your first kill or a seemingly broken compass. Which is like for our purposes here is not that important, but I think those are two like really good storytelling things, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things this book does the best is giving you elements that may not matter like statistically in the game, like it won't give you a bonus or anything, but it forces you to like think about your character's backstory through like these different like trinkets that you can get.
I'm definitely going with the compass for reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And like also if you don't want to figure out what the compass does, just give it to your DM. You now have a compass MacGuffin that can do whatever the fuck the DM wants it to do, and that's honestly something really useful to have to tie your character in with the rest of the plot.
Absolutely.
All right, and yeah, we'll come back to class later. There's still a little bit of subclass because in Daggerheart you get your subclass I believe you get your subclass immediately. Yeah.
You do, yes. First level.
Yep, first level you'll get your subclass, so that will be very fun and exciting. But yes, let's go back to more basics and talk about your heritage.
I'm going to be okay. Well, first, I just wanted to address the collection of heritages in this game is amazing. There's so much for you to pick from on top of just like the traditional D&D stuff. Um, I don't know if we have time to go into everything, Sterling, but obviously we have like our simians. We have I believe it was we have toad people. We have turtle people. We have mushroom people. It just keeps going. They even made space for furbolgs,
Yeah,
which threw
I
me
didn't
for a
know that.
loop.
Yeah, I didn't know that Furbolg wasn't like a thing that Wizards of the Coast made up. I was surprised that they just could do that. But they just straight up have Fearbolgs.
They also have equivalents for just the Dragonborns and the Tieflings as well. I believe they're called Daemons and Drakens in this one. They have fairies. But there's one that Sterling may have noticed that I'm skipping because it's the one that I've obviously chose with, being a fan of Eberron. I am being the Clank, which is this game's equivalent for the Warforged.
Yep, the Clanks, they can be like literally anything you want them to be. They can be as big or small, and also like that's the great thing about character creation is that these ancestries really do not bind you in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
There's not really like height, um, like height or weight like averages or anything like that. You
Mhm.
can honestly make your character as big or small as you want them to be.
Exactly. That's one of the things that I like that I enjoyed the most about like going looking into this game.
Yes, so okay, you've chosen the Clank as your ancestry.
Yes.
Let me
Um,
let me get pull up what that gives you.
that gives me an ancestry feature called purposeful design. I decide who created me and for what purpose, and then I generate experiences at character creation. Choose one that reflects this purpose and increase it by one.
Okay, cool. So you immediately get one of your experiences upgraded. So you later towards the end of character creation, we are going to give you two experiences. One is going to be at a
Excellent.
+2. One is going to be at a +1.
Excellent.
So
Good to know.
so basically, you're going to get either the choice to get supercharge one to +3 or equalize them both to +2.
Min max. Always min
It's
max.
it's always fun having one big number and one small number.
Yes. All right. I
All right,
believe
so yes,
next up.
that gives you that gives you one feature for your backstory. The other feature that you get from your backstory comes from the community that you were born in. So we just went through your ancestry.
Mhm.
which is just like pure DNA what you are. And your
Yes,
community represents like where you were raised, which I think is it's just a very nice way of doing races that isn't the way that D&D is currently doing it, and that a lot of other systems have started doing better much earlier than D&D has done it.
exactly. Because like that's why would everyone of a single heritage stick to one spot? Like obviously people are going to expand over like throughout the times, and like they're just gonna mingle with others, and like that's what builds like a sense of community, in my opinion. Um, okay, we
Yes,
went off a bit of
and
a
this and
philosophical route.
this yeah, true. But this gives me the chance to play a lanky orc, which is something I love. I love. I want the ability to do.
Exactly, or in my case of being a clank, kind of short and stout, but still with packing a punch.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not gonna get penalized the same speed penalty. Like D and
Exactly.
D, every short race can only go 25 feet, and it has hampered you like almost every time you play a short
Don't,
character
don't,
like that.
don't get me worked up. Don't get me worked up.
I listen. I know.
Anyways, for community, I chose Wanderborn because fuck being slow. I want to go everywhere at all times, and the Wanderborn is it's definitely what that feels like with just being the community, a very nomadic community as they describe it, where not
Mm-hmm.
having a permanent home and always just hopping from one place to the other. I think that fits very well for my Clank character because one of the things just part of the character itself, part of like the description of Clanks is that they need to constantly be looking for new parts. That's how they keep themselves going. They need to find
Okay.
parts and like replace them. And another thing that I think fits very well with this is the compass, because being a wandering nomad, of course, I'm like all I'm doing is just following this compass. Is it broken? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And that'll give your character like a cool flavor of just being put together of
Mhm.
patchwork of everybody else's technology.
Yes. I also chose the Wanderborn because the community feature that it comes with is a very wild card feature that I very much enjoy, and everyone knows that I always try to do wild card because it's called the Nomad card. I play it at the beginning of a session, and then I randomly choose a community card from a different community, and that is my community card for that session. And then I just exchange it back for my Nomad card at the end of the session.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you're constantly just putting yourself together with stuff that you find on the side of the road, and you're just not. It's just like part of like somebody else's trash that you've picked up, and you take on different
Exactly.
attributes. That is awesome. And yeah, it also shares the name of your favorite class in Cyberpunk.
Exactly. I'm glad you caught that one.
But yeah, and also if anybody gets confused, whenever we say card, that's that's just what they refer to each individual like ability as.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are physical cards that have like all of your abilities on it as reminders if you want to
Yes,
print those out instead of writing it down in your character sheet.
they do
And
have a
I
PDF of all these cards, and they're like, and I would just like to point out they're like masterfully done, very well illustrated. I'm
oh yeah,
I've
they're
already told
gorgeous.
Sterling that I'm planning on getting a deck myself.
Yeah, and like I said, they are putting them all out for free with the open beta. I'm sure that there will be on the Role websites very nice like cards that you can get for this. I'm sure that is something they're going to do. But like I'm going to be perfectly happy printing these out and laminating these individual cards. I think those would be they're just like really fun physical assets to have, and might encourage maybe more playing at the table, which I severely miss.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so you have chosen the Wander board. So yeah, you will just take on different attributes every single uh, play session, which is beautifully chaotic.
I gotta be chaotic, man. Come on.
All right, and next we are going to assign your character traits. So, like I said, for each of your ability scores, every class gets the same thing. You get 1+1 to place somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
2+1s to put somewhere, 2 zeros to put somewhere, and then a -1. which I love. I love this distribution. It gives you one that's it gives you one dump stat, one stat that's amazing, and then like a few middling ones.
Okay. I'm sorry. Could you run those by me one more time?
Yeah, so you get 1 plus 2,
1 plus 2. Okay.
2 plus 1s, and 2 zeros.
Cool. 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 Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Cool.
sorry. Yeah, it's a lot of numbers thrown.
No, it's just it's not even this. It's a lot of numbers thrown, but like the way that it's phrased, it was just like 1 plus 2, and then my brain would immediately go so 3. Wait, no, and then you go 2 plus 1, and I'm like so 3 again. Nope, not 3.
Yeah, that does make it. That is one thing that makes it difficult to talk about. Yeah, maybe that is something that should be tweaked, is the way you talk about that. But
I think I'm starting to realize why they just made like ability scores and modifiers as a separate thing in D&D.
yeah, it's more difficult to talk about, but it's definitely like more simple to
No,
execute.
absolutely. All
And
right,
it makes
so
building a character like you don't have to write down a bunch of and that's probably also what the cards are meant to do, is so you don't have to write down a bunch of stuff
so that's a
upon character
two.
creation.
That's a two, 2 1s and 2 zeros,
Yes, a two ones, 2 zeros, and a -1.
and a -1. There, that's the one that I was missing. Okay, cool, 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 cool. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Um.
And maybe this would be a good time actually to go into the abilities that you get at first level for Ranger, so we know
Yeah.
like what abilities are important.
Absolutely.
So let's go a little bit into what you get, and I'll have to go into the player materials, get out the Ranger, and look at your cards. All right, so for Ranger, your cards are so every level you get the choice to choose one card at your level from each of your domains. So at level 1, you get access to 3 level 1 cards from the Bone domain and 3 level 1 cards from the Sage domain.
Okay.
Every level you unlock new sets of cards from each domain, and you can pick one new one.
Hell
So
yeah.
by the time that you're done leveling up your character, you will have 10 domain cards in total. And you can choose them in any order. Like you can take entirely Bone or entirely Sage, you can mix it up, it can be whatever you want. So for your level 1 abilities, we have for Bone. You have the ability to for Bone, you have Deft Maneuvers, which allows you to mark a stress, which is a second resource for the players. You have both Hope and Stress,
Mm-hmm.
which you can spend. Which some abilities require Hope, some abilities require Stress. And the thing that you need to know about Stress is just that if you run out of stress and you take a stress for any reason, you instead lose a hit point.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of a secondary thing that you can spend if you don't have any hope in your tank.
Mm-hmm.
But it has more consequences when you run out of it.
Gotcha.
So yeah, with Deft Maneuvers, you can mark a stress to move anywhere within far range without making an agility roll to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So what that refers to is in combat. If you want to run up to somebody who is not like within like 10 feet of you, like within like ability to just like run in and get within melee range.
Right.
If they're further than that from you, you have to make an ability roll to get there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so you Deft Maneuvers would allow you to mark a stress instead and just get there with no consequences.
Awesome.
Then another Bone ability is Nimble, where you can add up to half of your agility score to your evasion.
Oh, that
which is
that
yeah, that's a nice like that's like kind of like a monk like boost that gives you some
absolutely, yeah.
more. Which and also what it's looking like is agility is going to be super important to the ranger.
Okay, awesome.
And then your third ability in bone is I see it coming. When you're targeted by a ranged attack, mark a stress, roll a d6, and increase your evasion against the ranged attack by that value. So it's like a fun like little variable. It's like the monk's deflect missiles ability. You
Okay,
roll to raise your evasion and see if it makes the attack miss you instead.
excellent.
And then on the
Do you
other
want me to cover
side,
the sage ones?
yeah, yeah. If you got them in front of you, go ahead. Yeah, cover the
Sure.
sage abilities you can
So
choose from.
these, so while the bone, well, all of the bone cards were like listed as ability cards. I guess in the case of Sage, they're included as spell cards. Well, one of them is spell cards. The other two are ability cards. The spell card that I get is Vicious Entangle, where I'll make. That's when I first make a spellcast roll against a target, and on a success they get rooted, and that even deals physical damage to them, as well as restraining them. And as long as I succeed on that, I can spend a hope to I could expend a hope to restrain additional enemies that are close to them, which I think is very interesting. That's like already reminds me of the quote unquote fuck box that we always talk about in regular D&D.
Yeah, it gives you the ability to upcast without having the spell slot system.
Absolutely.
You just
Then
you just use hope to upcast.
for the ability cards under Sage, I have Gifted Tracker, which again requires a spell track roll, and I get to ask you, the GM, a question to learn about a specific creature or group of creatures. I can also spend a hope before the roll, which would allow me to not double cast, excuse me, double my spell casting trait to the modifier.
Yeah, so they've really the in Sage they're really giving you your spell casting abilities and giving you the choice which whether to develop yourself more in spell casting or develop yourself more in martial weaponry.
Yeah, and then as long as I'm able to like identify these creatures beforehand, like when with this ability, and I'm tracking them, they'll give me a bonus to my. I'll get a bonus to my evasion against them, which seems like very good as well, going down the line. Um,
Yeah, and since you're a ranger, your spellcasting let me look it up. Your spellcasting ability
is
is
agility.
is agility. Yes. So yeah, agility majorly important for you. And also another thing is that every single thing that I should mention is that every single attribute here is going to be used for magic at some point. There are 7 magic classes. There are only 2 classes that don't use magic whatsoever. And almost every class has a different spellcasting modifier. The only two that share spellcasting modifier are druids and sorcerers.
Okay,
They both use instinct. Everybody else uses a different stat for it completely.
and then lastly, under the sage, I get Nature's Tongue, where I get to speak the language of the hidden natural world. When you want to speak to plants and animals around you, I can make an instinct roll, and on a success, they can give me information. And with fear, they will have limited knowledge, which is good, which is very important to note. And then, in addition, I can also make a spellcast roll while within a natural environment, and then that'll allow me to spend a hope for an additional roll to the result, for an additional bonus to the result.
Yes, the in Daggerheart they've really like instead of like a as like a compromise for not like throwing out like the entire spell list idea, they've
Hmm.
really kind of narrowed it down to like the spells that are most essential for each class. And they're good.
Absolutely.
They kind of give you that because like you have the classic entangle and you have like talkie to animals, which is a classic druid/ranger ability. And actually, yeah, we should now that we kind of know what you get at first level, let's assign your ability modifiers.
Yes, and then I think we can take it from there. Um,
Absolutely.
so I believed. I was originally thinking that maybe the best one to have as a +2 would be finesse. I'm now starting to lean a little bit more towards agility. So I'm putting my +2 in agility, while I will have a +1 in finesse as well as instinct.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Get your instinct up. Instinct is definitely the wisdom equivalent, so you'll get some decent perception.
Yes. Then next up, that takes me to my zeros, which I am putting in knowledge and strength. A little bit worried about it being in knowledge, but I think that'll be fine. And then, obviously, the dump stat for my little robot boy is presence, because that seemed to have been the equivalent of charisma in this world. So
Yep.
it's going to be a very uncharismatic fellow.
All right, cool. I think that works really well. Yeah, and just as a little afternote, the next couple steps are figuring out like your domain cards, and then there's also a connections section where you figure out your connections with other people in the party.
Oh, excellent! That could be fun.
Yeah, so if we have so when you get together with a group, you can instantly have other connections, which is also a feature of our of the Monster of the Week system, the first system that we're going to be playing for the actual play show we're currently in production for right now.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys keep an eye out for that one. Riley and Jack had some wild entries for this world, and I hope that I did as well. Thank you for joining, everybody. As always, I have been Bruno. That has been Sterling. I'm going to just Sterling, if you may join me, a standing ovation for our first video game, not video game, video episode. I can't say shit for today. You can catch us anywhere at nihf.com as well as on YouTube, finally, going forward. And we should be, I hope that we are already getting set up on all of our podcast channels as well. So you'll be able to catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as a start. And we are currently working on getting us back on Google Podcasts as well as other platforms as well. You could
Ooh, fancy.
find you can find us at other socials such as Twitter, Facebook, and even Letterbox at NIHF or at Nerded Here First. If you want a question specifically directed at me or Sterling, we don't have any socials. We're a bunch of introverts. So just make sure that you're tagging at NIHF and using the hashtag put it on the table. And we promise we'll get to it. Anything else for our viewers, Sterling?
I hope you're as ready as I am to fall in love with Daggerheart.
I am so ready. And I hope people are excited for when we get to our play session at Play It on the Table for Daggerheart, when I bring on our little Clink wielding a sword named Pierce.
Ha!
I'll see y'all next time.